James.
Raph.
Well, it's that time of year.
The silly season reaches its zenith.
That's right, the wacky week.
The wacky week. We're adding to our thesis on silly season.
Yeah.
Silly season, as a reminder, begins mid-August.
Yes.
Proceeds all the way through to mid-March.
Yes.
I think that's where we landed.
No, May. I think we got to May.
We got to May.
Due to Easter.
Oh, yeah, of course, Easter. The Easter long weekend, you run into that. So hopefully all of you are back on the tools and operating at 80 to 90% capacity by May. Additional level of that thesis, we are recording in the wacky week.
Yes.
Is that what you called it? Wacky week?
Yes.
Which is the week of Christmas itself.
Yes. So today, for example, we're recording on a Monday, as we always do. Although next year that might change. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. We're thinking of shaking up the schedule. Not that it really affects any of you or you care, but we are.
But regardless, today is the Monday. Christmas is on Wednesday.
Yep. We're recording on the 23rd.
So it's not a public holiday. It's just a day.
Yeah.
But it's a wacky day.
It's the peak of the silly season.
Yeah.
Because, obviously silly season work turns off. But on the 23rd of December, everything else turns off as well. You don't know what you're doing with yourself.
Yeah, you're coming and going.
You're coming or going. Obviously you're not working, but you're also you're getting prepared for Christmas Day.
But you've still got another day to prepare.
You've still got another day, so your last minute Christmas shopping is actually for tomorrow.
Yeah. You can put things off a little bit more.
And we have decided to fill that calendar with a marathon podcast recording session, as we did last year.
Yeah. So basically what you're hearing here is part one of we're going to record all day, basically, and then we're going to split it up into 5 or 6 or so episodes that will come out over the course of
the Christmas break.
Yeah.
So you will have no interruptions. Some of you pay for it. The rest of you should pay for it.
Yeah, I can't guarantee what days. I don't know if it'll keep a regular schedule, but we'll try and get a couple out a week, basically. One free, one paid.
Yep. So if you are a paid subscriber, you will hear a gentle, natural escalation of our excitement levels, our insight as we head from episode 1 to 6. If you're a free subscriber, you will hear a jagged, interrupted version of that.
Yeah.
Which, let me be honest, is not going to be a perfect listening experience. So if you head to downround.net and subscribe, you will not miss a single episode of our Christmas extravaganza.
It'll be a linear ascent.
A perfect linear ascent.
Yeah.
As opposed
straight line, a staircase. You're going to hear otherwise,
you're going to hear
last year, I believe I started singing at one point.
Who knows if that's going to happen? I hope it doesn't. But there's a chance that it will happen and you won't hear it because you're not subscribed. So remedy that immediately.
The snow might be falling, oh, we bring the sun. Jamaican reggae, the holidays just begun. Deck the halls with laughter, spread the cheer. We celebrate Christmas with warmth and a cheer. Feel the rhythm, the island's fastest play. Vine trees and palm tree all in our way. Sleigh bells are ringing, but we dance in the sand. Jamaican style Christmas feels oh so grand.
Okay, part one. We're going to start with Q&A. We also coming up have Becky Lucas and Joyride will be joining us for the Shark Tank, the highly anticipated annual Down Around Shark Tank.
Where we evaluate your billion dollar even pitches for companies and ideas. But first we'll start with a Q&A. We haven't done one in a while, so it's nice to wrap up the year with one of those. So we've got some questions that were in the Discord, posted to us on X, the Everything app, also on Blue Sky. Let's be honest.
A trickle came through.
A trickle from Blue Sky. We've got some of our listeners are on there, but they're not engaging yet. But that's okay.
But nice that we've, a year later, after last year, there's a new platform that we're inviting people to engage with the podcast.
All right, so let's go. We've got a list of questions. No, there's actually there's a decent number of questions here, so that'll keep us going. So the first one, we're starting with something light. From Tired Liam. Genuinely curious if Raph has watched any movies or TV in 2024.
This is going to be a quick one. No. The answer is no.
No.
I mean...
Probably watched a bit of sport.
I watched a fair bit of sport. I watched a lot of sport.
Yep. You watched some mixed martial arts.
I
was with you during one of those incidents.
Yeah, I watched a bit of UFC. Watched a bunch of footy. Obviously watching the cricket right now. I've watched some UFC documentaries.
Yep.
Like little mini, as in when I say documentary, I mean like on YouTube. Not like...
YouTube is TV now. Get with the program, people.
But no, as far as like, have I watched anything on Netflix or any movies? The answer is no, I have not watched a single thing.
And do you anticipate that you will in 2025?
I can't imagine me watching anything in 2025.
You should watch Avatar 2.
I should watch Avatar 2. I agree with that. I should.
Well, there you go. Tide Liam also came in with a second question, which is more immediately relevant to the Down Round podcast. Any thoughts about the implications of Australian competition reforms for local tech? ACCC getting pretty damn bolshy at the moment.
This is more a you question.
It is. Yeah, it is interesting. Obviously, a lot of the actions taken or like the recommendations of the ACCC and the other organs of Australian government are sort of outward looking. A lot of them is about tackling.
No offense, sorry, I've got to stop you. Are we really starting our Christmas spectacular like holiday thing with fucking ACCC regulatory chat? Is that where we're starting? Can you just end this quick, please? Just go, come on. Let's get this over with.
Probably not. I think most of it's outward looking. I don't think it's going to affect the local ecosystem that much.
Oh, this is like, okay, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, from Pasami Army, all things considered, are you bullish or bearish on 2025?
Wow, that is a good question now. Okay, now we're cooking. All things considered, will we leave 2025 being like, wow, that was more positive than it was negative? I recognize that all things have to be considered in this. Look, things do feel socially, globally, geopolitically, culturally to be getting worse and worse, but gizmos do seem to be getting more interesting.
I think this is a great...
And share market go up.
This is a great point. I have a multifaceted view on this. I think that on the gizmo dimension, very, very important for Down Around, 2025 looks delightful.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we're going to get lots of interesting gizmos and gadgets and
doodads,
doohickeys, contraptions. We're probably looking good on that front. And the software that powers them also potentially great.
Yeah.
We're going to see some interesting stuff. Politically, culturally, socially, we could have some issues. I feel like at the end, 2025 is going to be one of those clangers where we walk out of the back of it, like, 2016, 2020. In fact, it's the 4-4-5 year difference. I apologize, I got my math wrong on that one. I feel like it's going to be
you think we're gearing up for a real
corker, a destabilizing one. You're going to have the Trump presidency. Yeah, there's a few little bits,
all the chip stuff.
Chip stuff.
China have to reply to all the chip stuff depending on what Trump does.
Escalated, like the trade war angle. I
mean, you could call 2024 a bit of a corker. I mean, I know October, it happened in 2023, but like, the whole kind of unrest in the Middle East situation didn't really get any better. Like, we've got Syria, there's a few bits going on.
There's some real vectors for global conflict.
The tariff stuff is escalating.
That are cooking. I'm going to say overall, I'm bearish on 2025.
Yeah, I guess you have to be a bear. That said, I ain't selling any shares.
No, I think that, the market's...
It'll be slow. It won't be a 2024 banger year, but at the end of the day, I think numbers still go up.
Number will go up. I think that's fair to say.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. And I think, in the absence of the pressure cooker popping its lid in the parlance, I'm bearish on 2025. That doesn't necessarily mean that 2026 won't be good or that, but I think it's going to be a very unstable year.
Net, unfortunately, I'm going to have to take the bearish, but happy to look back on this and be wrong.
I'd be delighted to do that. Come back in a year. This is our big prediction. 2025, vibes off.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pasami Army. From Che, what do you think could be the first major AI bust? Or what industries do you think will be the first to give up on trying to shoehorn AI into everything?
Okay. So I think there already are busts, but I think foundation model is basically gone. If you want to cook up your own world knowledge, base level, we're talking about competing with ChatGPT or OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, I should say as well. Throw in XAI. You can't do that anymore. It's too expensive. So, and there are a bunch of companies who still claim to be doing that. Like, they are an alternative. I know that there's like Mistral or whatever, like, are doing it slightly differently. They're trying to be really small and efficient, maybe run on device, blah, blah, blah. That's fine if you're doing a little niche. But if you're trying to compete, that you are gone. If you're not already dead, which a lot of them are dead, that's gone.
Yep.
But as far as the more interesting side of things, like, are we going to say, like, actually customer service is bust? Good question. I don't know. I don't think customer service is, for the record.
No, I'm not sure. I mean, I think we will see some sort of big scale collapse of someone. And I think that will happen just by virtue of the fact that this is an extremely high capital, like capitally intense market. There's a lot of money going into startups that can't all succeed.
Yeah.
So we're going to see someone...
I mean, Perplexity could blow up, to be perfectly honest.
I think Perplexity has a good chance of flaming out.
Yeah.
Because, like, the more I see what's coming out at the moment, I can see, like, Google's approach bearing fruit.
And OpenAI have it as well.
OpenAI have
ChatGPT has it integrated.
Perplexity's raising at a $10 billion valuation. If Google get their shit together, and which I think they are, they fix the obvious issues with things like the search summaries and like all the other little bits and pieces, you can see their vision starting to coalesce. I think a company like Perplexity will probably go bust.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I think they could be. They to me are a big example of someone that could go down. I think it's possible that, you know, you might see a company like Midjourney flame out if, again, Google, OpenAI, and those others get their act together and do the image stuff really well.
There's heaps of companies like that where it's like...
But also Midjourney is bootstrapped, so it's not going to flame out in dramatic fashion.
No.
So there'll be companies that lose. On the question of, like, which industries will stop trying to shoehorn AI into everything, I think we probably will see a reckoning in terms of, like, very obvious chat body consumer-facing AI stuff. We'll probably see some of that recede for a while. Like, in terms of just, like, everybody having a chat box or everybody having...
I don't know. I don't... People seem to like having a friggin' chat box on their website. Like, they must... So in Asia, obviously, it works really well. They're kind of used to doing commerce via message.
Conversation, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously that is because, like, labor costs are much lower, so companies can afford to have a swath of people there answering messages and, like, selling to people one-to-one. That hasn't translated to Western markets because we never really had that infrastructure. And so... the idea of, like, commerce via chat with a bot is not something we're particularly used to. However, everyone I speak to, at least in the industry, seems to... Because I'm always like, is the chatbot worth it? Do you generate value out of this chatbot? Everyone always says yes, even though I'm like, to me, this feels like we have all these call to actions on your webpage. You've got this narrative, and then you've got a thing popping up, getting in the way of that narrative. But everyone I speak to, I mean, I'm talking in, like, consultancy world, seems to be like, yes, these are working.
It's interesting. I think my feeling is that we might see at least, like, a significant refinement in terms of how it's handled. I think that, like, we are definitely in the really crappy 1.0 phase where no one's really figured out what the interface should be. But I do think, I mean, again, going back to what I talked about before about what AI is at the end of the day, AI is... over the past, let's say, since the beginning of personal computing and, like, integrated business computing, but you could also say since the beginning of human civilization, if you want to be dramatic about it.
Yeah.
We've accumulated a fuckload of data across all different sorts of domains. There's like private corporate data, there's public data, there's literature, there's movies, there's YouTube videos, there's podcasts, there's whatever. We've got a vast amount of data, and a lot of it is difficult to synthesize, and, like, previous models we've had for how we can take all that unstructured data and provide and turn it into useful action have been not great. Whereas what AI is fundamentally is a system that can take a vast amount of data that's unstructured and all different kinds and multimodal and, like, synthesize it into something that's, like, useful for various use cases. And so on the back end, tons of companies are going to keep doing that. I don't think we're not going to see, like, a broad-based collapse of this. It's going to keep...
Yeah, I think so too. Whether it justifies some of the valuations...
Probably not.
To get nerdy about it, so you have, you know, companies like Microsoft and whatever who are at 30 times earnings. At the moment, that's based on because their earnings have been growing. Like their earnings have been double-digit earnings, like, year on year. If a lot of that earnings comes from cloud, which is other businesses like friggin' Pepsi or insurance companies or whatever trying out AI, if they don't double, triple their spend, or a bunch of them don't, then those earnings kind of flatten out in 2025. That means, well, if your earnings are flattening out, then we can't give you a 30 times earnings multiple. you'll see some of those valuations like pull in a little bit. You could see a bit of that stuff, right?
Yeah, we could. I think like some normalization of valuations is very possible
if those earnings do retract. But then, if companies do friggin' roll out chatbots and are like, actually, we've been able to cut 25% of staff. We need to reinvest in this, which that just means buying more Azure, whatever.
Yep.
Then you could see those earnings continue through 2025, but who knows?
What I don't think we're going to see, and like some people have predicted and also like maybe aspirationally hope this is going to happen for reasons that I think are valid. We're not going to see, a Microsoft or OpenAI or Google or Amazon or whatever flame out where like they completely get their shit wrecked because of the amount of money they've put into AI. There may be like a short-term reckoning where it's kind of like there's a misalignment in the timeframes.
Yeah.
Because they have dumped a fuckload of money into it. Yeah. And they have said in their earnings reports, like, we expect this to pay off over the course of 10, 15, 20 years. Exactly. Which is insane for any sort of investment like this.
But well, they're also like, the downside risk is like worth it for...
This was the Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google thing, CEO of Alphabet as well. He was like, if we
miss, that's way worse.
The downside risk of not doing this is way higher. And I think they all think that. So,
but yes, as far as companies that are going to flame out, all of your fucking AI for law, AI for marketing, AI for this, AI for that, I think that because we're in real V1 of the productization of AI, they might have some trouble if they've raised at big valuations right now. Companies have raised at sensible valuations and it can actually continue to grow. They'll be fine. But if you had a bunch of hype because you're like, I'm an AI friend thing, or I'm an AI for legal, and you have no customers, you're in trouble.
Also, one thing that's worth contextualizing there as well, there are so many like shit tier startups, many of them like single founder enterprises, which are kind of like, oh, we're doing a legal AI tech, or we're doing, the more extreme version is like upload 50 photos of you and we'll generate an AI headshot or whatever. Like a ton of these like low capital requirement, rely on someone else's models, probably heavily promoted via marketing channels like LinkedIn or meta platforms or whatever, where the people know that this business does not have long-term legs. They're just going to suck up as much revenue from people buying into the hype right now. There are a ton of those businesses which are absolutely going away, but I think the founders know that they're going away.
Yeah, and there's a ton of businesses though that probably have valuations in the hundreds of millions of dollars right now that have no customers.
Exactly. A lot of people flying around like the legal AI space or whatever. Realistically, there's only going to be a few big winners of that, and it's probably going to be Microsoft, or the people that own the data. Like, for example, companies like LexisNexis, which own a vast amount of legal data, they will win because they can either create their own solution or sell access.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to see some interesting flameouts, but I don't think we're going to see any big ones.
The biggest one would be, I think that's a decent prediction. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but like Perplexity, I think that's an interesting prediction from us. I'm not saying they're definitely going to go down or whatever, but Perplexity might be someone who...
They could,
back end of the year, you might see like they're having trouble raising the next round.
Yep. And one of the reasons is that I think Perplexity is like a good product.
Yep.
But Search GPT that's in ChatGPT is basically as good in my experience in terms of like pulling out current news stories and blogs and updates and synthesizing it in a way that's legible to your input. It's good at that.
Yeah.
I think the interface is probably slightly better.
Plus Google will get better.
So and Google will absolutely
And if you've already got a ChatGPT subscription and Google, why would you subscribe to another thing that does something 5% better?
Totally. And also, I think the way that Perplexity conduct themselves is very clumsy. When they got into the shit because they were just like reproducing full Forbes articles and whatever.
Yeah, and they were ignoring the robot.txt.
To me, that didn't come across as like move fast break stuff where Uber. It was like, you people just don't understand how this works and how like OpenAI understands you need to be some degree of diplomatic with content like rights holders, whether it means paying them off, striking deals or whatever. Whereas they were like, so to me, that suggests like a certain way of conducting themselves that might blow up in their face at some point. Cool. The next question actually follows slightly from that, and maybe we just answered it, but this was from Matt Cowgill. Picture a 2x2 matrix. One axis, AI will stagnate or AI will get much better, and the other axis is that's good versus that's bad. Where do you place yourselves?
That's easy. I place myself smack bang in the middle.
Smack bang in the middle. I respect all viewpoints and I believe in all outcomes.
Yes.
To varying degrees. No, I don't think AI is going to stagnate.
No, I think especially more on the inference side, I think we're going to see advancements there. And I think on the voice side in particular, I think I'm bullish in 2025 on the voice side of things. I think I've said this on Down Round. Like I expect us to, in 2025, it's going to be hell annoying. It's going to be so fucking annoying. You go to someone's website, the FAQ doesn't answer it. You speak to the chatbot can't answer your specific question because the reason you're friggin' talking to the chatbot is like, no, I have a thing that you haven't answered. And so you call them up and you're just speaking to a friggin' AI. Because the voice AI is getting so much, like it's getting really, really, really good. I think back after 2025, it'll be one of those things that happens infrequently, but like you're calling up and you're talking to friggin' AI more and more and more.
I think that like that part is going to happen. I think like if you look at it from the perspective of, are they going to hit a wall? Is like the actual development of it going to, run into significant problems and stagnate? I mean, I'm slightly influenced by the fact that, the OpenAI 12 days of Xmas or whatever, their last thing they brought up was O3. So they had O1, which is their reasoning model. They've skipped O2 and gone straight to O3, which turns out, I read this in the information, it's because O2 is like that mobile phone, like the telco in UK. So they just skipped it to avoid a copyright battle.
Great.
But O3 is not a publicly available model yet. It's another reasoning one. So it can.
But we've talked about this. It's like for complex questions. And both you and I have been like, we don't really have reasons. It's one of those things where it's hard to kind of come up with a thing like, I should use the reasoning model.
I'm exposing myself as a midwit by saying that I don't deal with many things that require multi-step deep reasoning.
Well, I mean, when I do,
it's
creative things, which is
creative,
like not
creative and writing stuff, which
or like ideas where I don't think I'll ping ChatGPT when I'm like brainstorming ideas and stuff, but I don't think that I need like a multi-step reasoning engine to kind of give me like an interesting brand voice or whatever.
No, totally. But O3 is their next model that they previewed. And apparently it's with some research people now. But
this is on the inference side, though, again, as we're saying. This isn't like the model. The model is static. They've hoovered up all of the information on the internet, created this static model. Now, when you ask it a question, O1 and O3, it kind of checks its own learning. It splits up the question into multiple parts. So, we've used the example before. If it's like, the classic is, how many R's in strawberry? Instead of it just an LLM being like, what's the next? There are number R's in strawberry, it's going to go, okay, strawberry, let's spell out the letters, S-T-R-A, let's put a number next to each of the letters. Therefore, you know what I mean? It creates this reasoning path. That's what it's doing, but that's all happening on the inference side. The model is still the same.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I think they have trained a new model for the O series. I mean, but again, we don't really know how different it is.
Well, the point is, like, the models can't learn. This is the issue with with transformer models. Once it's happened, it's happened. It's not like when it gets it wrong and I say, you just said there was 2 R's in strawberry, there's 3, that doesn't update the model.
Yeah, no. It is all inference side. But the point is that O3, I mean, I think that a lot of like the AI benchmark stuff is bullshit. Like, at least it's impossible to evaluate one over the other. They're always like we've updated the AI charts, and like the new version of Gemini is the new number one based on, averaging out the results of 500 different bizarre AI benchmark tests.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't make head or tails of this. I don't think anyone can. But this one really outperformed on one that's really highly regarded because it is the training set, or the question set is a whole bunch of basically mathematical questions that are not in the training data and have been written by mathematicians specifically for the test. O3 got 70-something%, whereas O1 got, I think it was under 10%. So it's being sold as like a massive improvement. And it sounds great. But to me, looking at that and some of the other things that are cooking around, Google releasing its reasoning models, I feel like we have a way to go with the current model, more than I potentially thought, that is still yielding results.
Yeah, and more products on top of it, as I said,
Yeah.
It takes years to actually work out what products you can build on top of this, and we can't really even predict them.
Is it good or bad? That's a good question. I think it could potentially be quite bad in the short term, at least, in the same way as any sort of potentially major shift in terms of like how work is done and valued. I don't necessarily mean like AI is going to do every job on Earth and it's amazing.
No, but like our experience with like interacting with the world and content, etc., will probably get worse.
Will change and get worse. And like, I think it's entirely possible that a whole bunch of Sam Altman's been out and about saying that, the whole world's about to change and where, the nature of work's going to change, but we'll find useful stuff for people to do. We always do. Maybe that's a bit dramatic, at least in the short term, but, I think that it will have some impact. And I think in the short term, it could be quite bad in the same way as like, localized to certain industries, but like the internet was bad for certain industries, media, for example.
Yeah.
Good in some ways, but also has resulted in dramatic job losses across the space. I think we'll see that across a lot of knowledge industry jobs. I don't know if it's going to be mass job losses, but there'll be a restructuring.
Yeah, I mean, knowledge. I think that claims of like the knowledge workers, quote unquote, demise have been slightly exaggerated.
No, I agree.
I think that more like and it is, I suppose, a knowledge workspace, but like more in the coding, to be honest, space. I think data scientists may well be in trouble. And you know what?
Good.
People know my opinion on data scientists. For one, you should never have had the word science in your name.
We've made this argument time and time again. You should never have called yourself scientists.
Yeah.
The only people nuclear scientist.
Yep. That's acceptable.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Does anyone else call themselves ex-scientist?
Because, you've got like chemists. They've got their own word.
Chemists, physicists.
Yeah. But like science is a very broad brush.
It's very broad. And, you're just trying to get people thinking about
white lab coats.
White lab coats, guys running around in a laboratory, maybe doing like...
When you're doing SQL queries, let's be frank here.
And some of them are quite complex, maybe doing a bit of R. You're doing interesting stuff with the data sets, don't get me wrong.
Doing joins and whatnot.
But maybe you should have called yourself like...
Insights analyst.
Data analyst. I mean, that's already a thing. But I guess maybe there should be... Because analyst does sound a bit entry-level salary.
It does. I know, I get what you're doing. You're trying to crank it.
Data analyst is a job you might see on Seek, total compensation $65,000 a year. So I get why you don't want to be lumped in with that. But...
science? Really?
Science?
You need to know how a Bunsen burner works in order to be called a scientist. You need to I know that nowadays there are scientists in labs doing shit with DNA and whatnot. They probably haven't used a Bunsen burner for a few years, but they have used one. As a data scientist, ever turned on a Bunsen burner in undergrad?
Maybe in high school. Maybe they did.
But was that in their pursuit of data science? No. Or was that because they were working out the boiling point temperature of like some shit?
That had nothing. Yeah, no, you're right. I think data wrangler sounds a little bit too...
Yahoo, bit cowboy.
A bit cowboy, but maybe that's good. Maybe you should be proletarianized. You should think of yourself as a working man. Maybe the world would be better if data scientists thought of themselves
data laborers
as the working class. Jumping on the tram and putting on like one of those flat caps, wearing a little three-piece suit, heading down to the data mines to mine some insight.
Data miner, I like
data miner. But again, that sort of applies. Okay, I get why you've triangulated yourself into data scientist, but it's wrong, and I'd be happy to see you all lose your jobs. All right. Anyway, that was my answer to, is AI getting much better, good or bad? I say it's maybe a bit of both in the middle of that line, but good that data scientists are no longer allowed to use that term. From Dan Nolan, one-time guest on the podcast. He actually had two questions, and we're happy to indulge them both. What do you guys reckon about AppLovin?
AppLovin.
This is a thing.
We talked about doing this as an episode.
Or maybe we will, but...
Maybe we will. I mean, this is a company worth, I think it's like $120 billion market cap US. It places ads in games. In mobile games, effectively. It's an ad marketplace on the buy and sell side. It's done very, very well post Apple's app tracking transparency, which the first ever Down Round episode was about, I believe.
Yep.
A company whose name is AppLovin has no right to be worth more than $100 billion US. Let me be frank about that.
Let me say AppLovin. Capital APP, capital LOVIN. AppLovin. It's a very 2010 name for a company, and I believe it was founded around then.
Yeah. We've talked about this before, how like, even though Apple and Facebook are like enemies, enemy number one, they hate each other, they run their business in completely different ways, and Apple instigated app tracking transparency. I mean, this isn't a fact. This is just kind of, everyone kind of broadly agrees to really send a shot over the bow of Facebook. But at the end of the day, Facebook was essential to Apple's rise, because how could you, if you had an app, how could you get people to install your app? Facebook was like the number one platform for getting people to download your hot new app.
Yep.
So like there was really this kind of circular thing where Facebook was leading people to pay Apple 30% to download the apps on the App Store. App tracking transparency came along, made it much harder to actually see if that person went to download that app in the first place. Like, did they actually convert? And so, mate, if you're an app maker who's advertising, it's like, well, now I no longer know if I don't have the certainty that I'm spending money and it's actually working. And Facebook don't have the ability to then like retarget based on the information. Facebook have kind of, over time, were best placed to kind of work out ways using probabilistic things, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, AppLovin, sorry, I said ing, it's n.
Mm.
Basically, because they're installed in so many apps, they have a way of again, using AI being like, this app is similar to this app, the ads on this app they can see the connection as long as they're installed on the app that's in, I'm advertising on app A for app B. Basically, using probabilities and whatnot, put people into certain buckets and segments, and point being, they've created a way using in-game app advertising that is effective.
Yeah.
And that has pumped them up through the rankings.
To be clear, for anyone who's like, I don't know what you're talking about, if you played like a free-to-play exploitative fucking app game, like a mobile game that has 1 million in-app purchases, 20 different currencies, and it like makes you wait to perform actions in the game without paying or waiting to watch an ad, and then you see the ad and it's some other fucking game with a completely fraudulent ad that displays something that's not actually the gameplay. Probably AppLovin, or one of the other companies trying to do that.
Well, one of their main competitors is Unity, who make the game engine, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about it before. We won't go into too much detail because it's probably too much for a friggin' Christmas episode, who bought IronSource in order to compete with AppLovin in this app marketplace. And that's why they did this whole thing where it's like, you actually have to pay us heaps of money unless you install our IronSource, which is their equivalent of AppLovin, blah, blah, blah. So they could make this marketplace to compete with AppLovin. And it kind of backfired and went to shit. Again, listen to the Unity episode if you want to know. But point being, it seems like AppLovin they must be weapons in there because they've put themselves in a situation to be worth $120 billion US, suck up all of this advertising revenue for in-app advertising without having like a channel like Facebook, who are obviously selling it via their own actual social feeds and are seemingly doing very well in the ad tech space. So what do I think of them? As I said, a company with that name should not be allowed to be worth that much amount of money. That's my final word.
As simple as it comes, folks. Change the name or get off the pot. Get off the stock market. Are they listed? I assume.
Yeah, they're listed. Yeah. You can invest. You can invest anything you want, really.
If you've seen a completely fucked fraudulent video or game ad in one of your mobile games or on TikTok or something, take a look at and it infuriated you. Salve the burn by buying some stock in that company.
Yeah. Their ticker is APP. And folks, they're worth $40 billion more than Intel.
Good stuff, folks. Wonderful. Okay. And sorry, Dan Nolan's second question was Game of the Year.
Oh, I've played a game this year, Balatro.
I think Balatro is probably my Game of the Year as well.
It's a banger.
Incredible. I mean, if you haven't played it, it's on Apple Arcade. It's on your phone. You can also get it on every other platform. It's poker, but not.
It's like solitaire times poker. It's poker, but solitaire, but with quirk.
But with some cool little addictive crack cocaine style enhancements. And
kind of like late 80s kind of game aesthetics.
Yeah, it's got some...
It's a card game.
It's a card game, sorry. And it's got a woozy vaporwave type soundtrack. It's got some nice card animations and sounds.
Yeah, and it's $15, no in-app purchases.
Yeah, or you can just subscribe to Apple Arcade.
Or you can subscribe to Apple Arcade and get it for free. I didn't know that. I subscribed to Apple Arcade and I paid $15 like a damn fool, but here we are.
Goddamn, Balatro. All right, this one, I love this, from Doria Memeing. Would like a quick fire yes, no to these three. And I'm sure we can do that. 15-minute cities.
Yes.
Yes. mRNA.
The vaccine.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess it would be the vaccines. Well, the concept, I can't really say no to it.
It's like a spike protein. I'm going to say
it's part of my biological makeup.
So I guess I've had no ill effects that I know of. Maybe I started being like, Microsoft is good after I received it. I don't know.
I reckon the mRNA shot gave me 5 IQ points.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I mean, I got a few of them and it seems to be going okay. Sorry if that offends you, but I like them. I like vaccines.
What's the other one? Bovea.
Oh, that's the stuff that Lurpak got cancelled for putting in it. I'm pro it. I love Lurpak. Bovea, it's like you feed it to cows and they release less meat. I think this could be wrong, but I believe that we better Google that because that could be completely wrong.
I'm going to ask ChatGPT actually. What's Bovea? And should I like it?
I believe it's the stuff you give to cows to make them release less methane.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of movement in that space, actually. A lot of companies. Bovea is a feed additive developed by DSM, now part of DSM Firmenich, designed to reduce methane emissions from cows. Yes.
So it
inhibits an enzyme involved in methane production.
Yeah, so Lurpak, the best butter in the world, not officially. The Irish one won best butter in the world. I don't know if you're across the best butter awards.
Yeah, well, like Bally.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
But I'm a butterhead. But we're a Lurpak family.
We're a Lurpak family as well. I like my Lurpak.
So my wife texted me. She was like, Lurpak's getting cancelled. I'm like, oh no. and then she was like, oh, it's okay. It's by like psycho right wing,
It's Bovea related.
Yeah, it's Bovea related. And I was like, oh, that's so I'm happy to eat. But I think the idea is like,
see, with the thing when it's like the Danish butter brand, quite old, you hear that Lurpak's been cancelled. You think, like, did they run rat lines for Nazi collaborators after World War II to South America?
No, exactly.
Quite possible.
Are they funneling money to like some South African kind of underground like white nat like thing? What's going on here? It's like, okay, they're feeding the cows some bullshit. It's seed oil adjacent. Like, no, we're okay here. We're still eating Lurpak, folks. It's all good. So, in answer to your question, yes. I'm a yes.
Yes.
I know we're cucked by saying like, yes, we like our vaccines and we love our cows eating.
We love 15-minute cities. We love mRNA. It's okay. So we're a proud soy boy podcast. We will live in the box. We will eat the bugs.
Exactly. I'm open, and we will be happy.
I'm open to. We'll be happy. I'll own nothing.
I'll own nothing. Great. I'll be happy. Sounds pretty good to me.
A few more subscriptions, and I can get anywhere in 15 minutes. La-di-da. Alrighty. This one's from XSB on X. Was the NBN a good or appropriate thing for the government to take on?
That's an absolutely from me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like...
They obviously did a shit job. They should have gone fiber to the home.
It was dumb. There was a ton of politics around
and yes, it's expensive, but it's one of those things that, like, the private sector's not going to do it, so you just fucking get the government to do it. So, yes, in our stream of being, yes, cucked status or whatever,
Just let it happen. I mean, and, like, all the, the pitches of all the things that might succeed at, like Starlink and satellite internet and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, half of that's not true, though. Like, Starlink, you're not going to get enough satellites up there to cover the amount of people. And wireless it's just not going to get there. You can't get it as fast as fiber optics.
It doesn't scale as well as you would probably know. I mean, 5G is at the end of the day, yes, it's much quicker and whatever, but it's also like a capacity thing, opening up extra bands to onboard more customers to it.
Do we really notice? I know that you could argue from an economic perspective, like there's some deadweight loss there potentially, but also I don't think there is. I think it's a good investment, to be honest. And like, because it wasn't going to happen. It's too expensive for the private sector to delay it, especially when there's no competition, real competition.
I think, it's fine. And whatever, if something succeeds and comes along, it's well. But I think despite all the fuck ups along the way, and of course there were many, it was good for us to have a
faster internet.
A fiber optic network. Again, then you get NatSec stuff when you're relying on satellites and whatever. I think it was, at the end of the day, it could have only happened vaguely in this way.
Yes.
Cool. This next one comes from Mountain Blue. Free parking. You're temporarily freed from the obligation of answering questions.
Okay.
You are free to spend the next few minutes to talk about something funny that you saw the other day or whatever.
Okay. I love that. This is a new one. Well, I don't have to answer it.
So you
I can just talk about something.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a little annoyance that happened to me. They said something funny that happened to me. I guess you might find this funny in the Schadenfreude kind of way. So I had a dinner party last night. I don't know when. Either last night or the night before.
Okay.
It might have been 2 nights ago. I can't remember. And on the morning of, my wife was like, the hot water's not working. I was like, that's annoying. And then I was like, I'm going to have to deal with that. And then I tried the stove. It was like the gas was off. The gas wasn't working, but we had a bunch of things to do. I had to mow the lawn and stuff. We had guests coming around. It was like, well, and they were bringing like food as well, potluck. People will all bring a dish. This kind of deal. Lovely. It's the silly season, folks. It was the end of a pre-wacky week. Last day, it was Saturday. Anyway, the next day I was like, I got to sort this we have no hot water and our gas doesn't work. That's never happened to me. The gas has gone off. I've lived in properties with gas my whole life, I think.
Yep.
And the gas has never gone off. It also doesn't sound good, because if the gas isn't working, it's like, is there
a leak?
When you go to the websites and stuff, it's like, do you smell gas? It makes you just keep smelling things. You smell like your hot water system. You're supposed to smell like the gas main and everything. Went to the gas main and I was like, is this even a thing? Like, can you turn it on and off? Anyway, I called them up. It turns out, yes, you can turn on and off your gas, as you can imagine. But it doesn't look like a tap. It was like and it was really solidly, it's like a nut, more like a nut than a switch on mine. And it had just been turned off. And when I spoke to them, they're like, it's a common prank that people do, is they turn your gas off. So someone has entered my property and turned off my gas, fucking turned off the hot water, nearly ruined the dinner party. Fortunately, no one needed any food heated up in an oven. I was like, we're a microwave family. But
well, the cucking continues. Well, love mRNA, 15-minute cities, love that. Love putting weird chemicals in the cow feed, and I cook everything in the microwave.
But yeah, someone a prankster, I guess it's school holidays, had come onto my property, into my front yard, and turned off the gas.
Where, you might add, you are fully within your rights to kill them.
I've set up
castle doctrine.
No, this is the first time I was like, I'm getting a fucking camera.
I get, look, when you're presumably it was a teenager or something that did it, you would think so.
But I may have wronged someone. That's the thing. I have got into altercations around the neighborhood.
Have you?
Yeah, I have, yeah. I don't think anyone who I've got into altercations with knows where I live, but also our house is quite prominent. We've got reindeers and shit, There's lights going on.
What? Okay. On a scale from 1 to 10, how serious have these altercations been?
One of them, there was threats of physical violence, and I've been plotting my revenge for weeks. So
you weren't delivering those threats of physical violence, you were on the receiving end.
I was on the receiving end.
Did you deserve it?
No. I can tell the story for that. This is like
okay,
two and a half weeks ago.
You got free parking.
This was literally about that specific subject.
Free parking. Oh,
I parked my car on a side street around from the main shopping area, which has got like parking, but it's a real hassle to go into the parking. It's one way. It takes ages. You got to wait for people to reverse this, that, and the other. Pain in the ass. I was just ducking down to the shops. I parked the car on a street around the corner, and a gentleman exited. And I think he was like a builder, like whatever. He exited the house that he was working on and was like, "Why are you parking there?" And I was like, "Because I want to." And he was like, "There's 1,000 car parks over there." And I was like, "There's not 1,000, mate. There's probably about 80." And he goes, "Why didn't you park there?" And I was like, "Because I didn't want to. I wanted to park here." Because I got to, people may have noticed, like I'm not really that good at de-escalating situations when I feel offended.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was just like, because I wanted to park here. What's it to you? And he started talking about how the person next door is disabled, and people park here and they can't park their car. And I'm like, mate, I just parked my car in a parking spot. What are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm sorry that happened, but like, I just parked my car. And he's like, why don't you he's like, you fucking think you're a mad cunt, this, that, and the other. And he's like, well, watch out for your car. When you come back, you better watch out for your car. So anyway, whatever. It spiraled out as here where he's like, oh, you're going to call the cops? I was like, what the fuck? I didn't mention the cops. Like, no. And he's like, oh, you're one of those guys who call the cops. Let's fucking do it right here. Like, literally just escalated to violence. So I'm obviously thinking, like, I'm going to find out what his car is and I'm going to spray paint pedo on the side.
And you think it's possible he figured out where you live
and turn my gas off.
He thought of a way. And he probably went through his mind. He was like, "Look, I don't want to kill him. This is actually a way that I can de-escalate the situation through. I'm going to find out what night he has a dinner party on. I'm going to turn off his gas."
No, I'm not suggesting he did that. I said I've been in a number of altercations in the area, and here is an example of one.
Okay. Well, I say it's a funny prank to do as a teenager.
Yeah, I suspect it's a teenager doing a prank, especially given it's school holidays.
It is school holidays, but and again, I know kids are in sort of a weaker phase of development, and their brains aren't fully working. But it seems like one of those pranks that doesn't have a huge payoff.
No, you just know that you've kind of annoyed someone.
Yeah, and there could be a range of outcomes. Maybe that's part of the thrill.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe they died.
Well, if you're with multiple mates, though, I could see being like, turn the gas off. Oh, I can see the gas. That's the gas main there. Because you kind of like, our front yard is kind of, you can hop the wall and you can kind of see in and whatnot. So I could see maybe that kind of going on. But it's pretty, I didn't know that was a prank. And I used to do pranks. We used to throw a pillow covered in a child's t-shirt out in front of cars on the road, so people would think they'd run over a child. That kind of gear. So I'm across pranks.
That's red hot, actually.
But I never knew about the gas main.
I was about to say you're out of the loop. You're not part of the game. You don't understand the contours of how it's played these days. You're going soft. You don't get it. But honestly, I feel like the prank war has declined since throwing a child-sized pillow in a t-shirt in front of a car and making people think they have committed vehicular homicide. That's insane. Anyway, that was a good thing to talk about on our free parking. Great. I hope you've all learned a thing or two about Raph in that conversation.
All good stuff.
All good. Yep.
Subscribe for part 2, which should be out right now. Happy holiday season.